Hi. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the topic principle of movement, which is related to the subject physics. It is intended particularly for the high school science students, and the learning objective for preparing this video is to make students learn about the basic concept of turning effect produced by a force which is acting on a body which is fixed at one point. That fixed point is called as the fulcrum. So let us try to understand what this principle of movement actually is. And before starting that, we have to discuss a basic term. What is the term movement of a force? To understand this, let us consider a rectangular bar which is fixed at one point, and this fixed point is called as the fulcrum. And on the other free end of this bar, I'm applying a force F. Then the application of this force is going to produce a rotational motion in this rectangular bar. So the rotational motion or the rotational effect produced by this force is called as the movement of a force. How to deal with this term mathematically? So to understand that, let us consider this force F is applied at a distance d from this fulcrum. So the distance between the point of application of the force and this fulcrum is called as the moment arm represented by d. So mathematically, moment of a force represented by this Greek letter tau is equal to the product of force and the moment arm F into d. The SI unit in which it is measured is Newton meter, and in CGS unit it is measured in dyne centimeter. And the conversion of Newton meter to dyne centimeter is 1 Newton meter is equal to 10 to the power 7 dyne per dyne centimeter. Correction. Suppose if I have made the fulcrum right in the middle of this rectangular bar, and I have put some force here on the left hand side of the fulcrum, then this force is going to produce anti-clockwise movement in this rod. That is, it is going to rotate the rod or the bar in the anti-clockwise direction. On the other hand, if I put the same force here on the right hand side of the fulcrum, this force is going to produce in this bar what is called as the clockwise movement. That is, the rod is going to rotate in the clockwise direction. So in this particular picture, you can see that there is more weight put on the right hand side as compared to left hand side. Therefore, this clockwise movement would be greater than the anti-clockwise movement. On the other hand, in this picture, more weight is kept on the left hand side as compared to right hand side. Therefore, anti-clockwise movement is greater than the clockwise movement. What I want now, I want to make this rod balanced despite putting different weights on the either side of the fulcrum. That is, what I want to make is this clockwise movement should be equal to anti-clockwise movement. You can see in this picture, despite having different weights on both sides of the fulcrum, I am still having the balancing of this rod. So principle of movement deals with this kind of the condition. So to understand that, let us consider the magnitude of this force is F1, which is acting at a distance d1 from the fulcrum, and the magnitude of this force F2 is this force is F2, which is acting at a distance d2 from the fulcrum. So d1, d2, they are respectively the movement arm for these forces F1 and F2. Then, according to principle of movement, to balance this rod under this given condition, the product F1 D1 should be equal to F2 D2. So F1 D1 is the movement produced by this force F1, and F2 D2 is the movement produced by this force F2. So under this condition, this rod is neither going to rotate clockwise nor anti-clockwise. So in this condition, the rod is said to be in rotational equilibrium. So principle of movement talks about the rotational equilibrium. That is, the rod is not rotating clockwise nor anti-clockwise. So in words, we can define principle of movement that under the condition of rotational equilibrium of a body, the rotational clockwise movement is equal to the total anti-clockwise movement. So we can have some real life example over here. This physical balance, it works on the principle of movement. We have the play of seesaw there in park. It also based on the principle of movement. This is all about a principle of movement in this video. In the next video, we'll try to understand the new concept, that is the concept of center of gravity of a body and how it is measured. Thank you. If you have any query, you can contact me on this mail ID, sandeepsarwate@gmail.com. Thank you. Bye-bye.